Destiny 2 isn't a stealth game, but what if I told you it's possible to wander into a Cabal base and set off a bomb without anyone noticing? You want to know how it's done? In today's video, we're going to break down a sneaky but explosive hunter build. The most important piece in this setup is the Bombardier's exotic boots. Their exotic trait parting gift releases a bomb that detonates after a short duration when you dodge. The bomb adds a very respectable bit of damage to a class ability that's main function is mobility and utility. But because of the way the bomb is deployed, it's best used as a defensive option. If we add invisibility to our build, we'll be able to use our bombs much more aggressively. The Night Stalker's bottom branch, Way of the Pathfinder, has the best invisibility tools for the hunter. Your melee ability Vanish and Smoke allows you to throw a smoke bomb that turns you and nearby allies invisible. So we throw out the smoke bomb to turn invisible, run into a crowd of enemies, and drop the bomb. For this setup, I'll be using Gambler's Dodge, so after leaving a parting gift for my enemies, my Vanish and Smoke melee ability will be reset so I can reapply my invisibility for an easy escape, or hold on to it for another opportunity. Now that we have a gameplay loop established, we can use armor mods to enhance our moment-to-moment gameplay. The Way of the Pathfinder has a lot of cooldown reduction packed into its abilities, so I want to lean into that with the Firepower Charged with Light mod. Throwing a grenade while charged will refund a portion of my grenade's cooldown. To generate charges, I've got Taking Charge and Stacks on Stacks. Taking Charge gives me 1 charge of light whenever I pick up an Orb of Light, and Stacks on Stacks doubles the number of charges I gain whenever I gain a charge. To increase my grenade uptime even further, I'll be using the Bomber mod on my class item. Activating my class ability will reduce the cooldown of my grenade. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but don't worry, we're going to head into the field and break things down piece by piece. Alright folks, for today's testing we're diving into the Garden World Nightfall Strike in the classic Nightfall playlist. And what we're going to do is talk about all the different mechanics that are going on with this setup and the different ways you can exploit them. It's a very, very fun use of the Bombardier's exotic boots. These boots are very cool and they do a surprising amount of damage. So now's a good time for us to make use of it. I'm going to turn myself invisible. All these Vex, they can't see me, so I can blow them up very easily, and the invisibility remains active even after the bomb detonates or after I use my dodge. So I can continue to reposition myself even after I have triggered the explosion, which is really nice. Now, there are obviously some enemies that don't warrant me blowing them up with the Bombardiers, but whenever there is a really big grouping of enemies and I don't have a normal grenade available, I can use the dodge as a pseudo grenade. And right now I'm taking way too much damage, so I'm going to turn invisible. And what the hell, let's drop the payload and then continue working on our enemies. So we have a lot of flexibility within our loadout here. We can use what is normally just a defensive tool or a means to reset our melee ability as a way to dish out damage. And because we're playing as the Way of the Pathfinder, we have a very, very, very consistent and on-demand access to our invisibility. I'm going to turn myself invisible. Now, something really awesome about the Way of the Pathfinder is that it has a lot of different ways to restore all of its abilities. Whenever I hit myself or an ally with my smoke bomb, that's reducing the cooldown of my grenade, and whenever my grenade deals damage, it's reducing the cooldown of my smoke bomb. So we've got a real system going on here, and as well, because I have Bomber on my class item, every time I dodge to place a bomb with the Bombardiers, that's reducing the cooldown of my grenade even farther. So we have a really beautiful system to work with. Alright, now that we've left the Infinite Forest portion of the Nightfall, we can start really getting crazy with things. What I always want to try to do is throw my grenades while I am charged with light, because that is going to reduce their cooldown by about 15% per activation. And something else that I want to try to do is before I turn myself invisible, I want to have spent a grenade already so that I can gain the benefits of the cooldown reduction from my different abilities. I'm taking a little bit more damage than I would like to in this scenario, so I'll just use that invisibility to reposition. But this is such a fun way to engage with the game. It's arguably unnecessary. There are other ways to kill enemies without using stealth tactics or whatever you want to call it, but it's just so satisfying to move around the battlefield and be able to place explosive devices wherever you deem necessary. For this next bit, we've got a lot of enemies packed close together, so we can really start making use of all of the things in our arsenal. I'm going to turn invisible here, dodge out of the way to get that bomb to go off. It destroyed a bunch of fanatics, and this boy is chasing me super aggressively, so I'm going to unload on him with the Thunderlord a little bit. Now, unfortunately, I am caught out without a smoke bomb, but I can just dodge next to that enemy and then reapply it. And right now I'm going to look for an optimal placement of my grenade, throw it out, and I think it killed something. Maybe the Vex are just really agile and I just never noticed it before. But the way of the Pathfinder, what makes it so awesome is that it can utilize the stealth component of its build without having to expend a dodge charge. So the top branch of the Night Stalker doesn't get the same value out of the Bombardiers and the stealth, because if they want to activate their stealth, they have to use their dodge. And the way I like to use this setup is I like to be invisible before I approach my enemies. Now, every once in a while, I am going to get caught out without a smoke bomb, so I will have to play a little bit more on the passive side until I get my smoke back and available to me. But the cooldown is relatively short because of the cooldown reduction that I get from throwing out grenades and hitting enemies with grenade damage. The last thing that I want to talk about is the kind of incorrect usage of the Bombardiers. The main reason I initially thought that this exotic armor piece was a little bit on the low tier side of things was because I was trying to run up to enemies without invisibility for the sole purpose of dropping a bomb on them. And that is probably the dumbest thing that you can do, because as you run up to enemies, they're going to start shooting at you. But when you use the item in a more defensive capacity, so as this Minotaur is chasing me down, I roll to call out the bomb to damage him a little bit. That feels nice, but the bomb does so much damage that it is tempting to kind of run into the crowd and try and detonate the bomb. So I was originally using this exotic with the top branch of the Arcstrider, but it never felt good as soon as I stepped into higher difficulty content, because I would be running towards a pack of enemies and then they would all start shooting at me, and then I would say, okay, I want to drop my bomb, and then I would probably die like that. Let's redo this scenario. We'll turn invisible and use that to adjust my positioning, and then we can detonate the bomb accordingly. And I'll re-invisible after throwing the grenade, so I get a little bit of cooldown reduction on the melee ability, so it'll come back a bit faster. And then once more, we find ourselves in a position where I don't have my smoke available to me, which is always a little bit unfortunate, but I'm not going to actively run headfirst into danger just to trigger it. But if I see a nice opportunity to just inch up a little bit so I can get out a bomb, then I am going to do that. And then I've basically reset my gameplay loop. So now we can start working again. So what I'll do here is... Oh, that was a mistake. Or was it? Will this destroy the objective? It will. So once again, caught out without the smoke bomb, but I can use the grenade in order to get it back. I'll throw it onto that wanted enemy. The grenade's going to tick down, and then my smoke is back available to me. Boom. Drop the payload. It's really nice. The Bombardiers essentially give you a second grenade ability on a very, very short cooldown if you've spec'd into mobility on your hunter. My dodge cooldown is currently, I think, 9-10 seconds, which is really, really quick. Frickin' boss is shooting me while I'm invisible. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. I think you get the point. The Bombardiers are very cool, and if you can turn invisible in order to deliver the payload that the Bombardiers provide you with. It's a very satisfying way to deal damage to large packs of enemies. It's adding a ridiculous amount of efficiency to your build. Normally you'd want to use maybe a special weapon like a fusion rifle, Telesto, Jotun, whatever to clear out a large pack, but now you've got a payload from the Bombardiers that you can deliver on a very short cooldown, and it's a lot of fun, very satisfying, and also very effective. And then, of course, if you don't want to deliver a payload to some enemies, or if you're not in a position to, you can use the Bombardiers in a more defensive manner. As an enemy is pushing towards you, just roll backwards, the bomb will blow up, it will stagger them a little bit, and if they're close enough, it will most likely kill them. So, with all of that said, we're going to wrap things up here, but don't worry, there's plenty more coming in the future. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support the channel more than you already do just by watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting, you can head over to patreon.com/iBluairJgR to become a patron. As always, the name of the game is Destiny 2, the name of the channel is iBluairJgR. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.